Hey everybody, this is GeebMachine here with a commentary on my first full redub production of the fan film Bionicle Struggle in the Drifts by Verano. Now I'm not going to be talking about like the making of the film. That's up to Verano. What I'm going to be talking about is me doing the voices to this and making this video of the video in general. As you can see right here, this is the intro. This took me a while to make the titles because I was doing copy paste to for the letters, the Bionicle symbols, and then translating each one. That took, I think, over a week to make. That was really a struggle, but I'll talk more about that later. Because now we are going to starting the movie here. Now I still have to figure out what that says right there. But that'll probably be at another time. So right here we're seeing Kopaka, and he in particular for me was probably the easiest one for me to do because I only had to do one take with Kopaka. And I know he just grunts a lot, but you'll hear him talk a little more. If you've seen the other one, then you'll know. And now we're about ready to see another character come in. And it's gonna turn out to be one of the other Toa. It's Pahadu, the Toa of Stone. And his voicing in particular was really a hassle for me. He was the hardest one for me to do. I had to keep going back and forth, just trying to get the voices right, or lines right for him. That took me like, I think 2 days for me to actually do his voice. Do his lines, sorry. And speaking of voices, listen to Kopaka's. Do you hear that kind of graveliness and kind of almost cool demeanor that he has there? Well, I based that voice off of Josh Holloway. For those of you who don't know who Josh Holloway is, he's an actor, and he played a character on the ABC television show Lost. It was the character Sawyer, and he was kind of like this ex-con man. And in the show, everybody is on a plane, and they all crash land on the island, and then they have to survive and depend on each other to survive while dealing with the other mysteries of the island. And, as I said, I based Kopaka's voice off of Josh Holloway's Sawyer voice, because it had that very kind of cool, kind of gravelly sound that I think Kopaka should have had all this time. I mean, his voice was good in Mask of Light, but, I think it lacked a little enthusiasm or something. I'm not thinking of the right word right now.
Did you make it? No. It was
I liked doing Kopaka. It was really cool. I liked it. As for voice acting, I actually learned that little bit right there, basing a voice off of another person's voice from my mentor and voice acting teacher. His name is Christopher Robin Miller. He is a really great guy. And for those of you who don't know who he is, he's the voice of Professor Layton, Don Paulo, and Inspector Kelmy from the Professor Layton Nintendo DSi series, or DS game series. One of the two. It's one of those handheld Nintendo games. And he taught me a lot of things that were cool. And then it really helped me to start. Oh, and speaking of voices, here's another one we're going to be hearing, and it's the Korok voices. This one's really cool. that right there was 6 different voices. And I did it all the recording on Audacity. And I added an echo to it because I really wanted it to sound hollow, cold, and all that. So it worked really well in my opinion. Anyways, I'll get back to that recording bit in a little bit. I want to continue with Christopher Miller. Like I said, he's a really great guy, and I came to know about him from my music teacher, Kimberly Mumford, a really great lady. And she not only taught me how to sing and project my voice, she pointed me to Chris when she asked me after I was with her for about a year, saying, like, why do you want to pursue this? And I said, I want to voice act. And then she told me of her friend, Christopher Miller. And he lived, like, 3 hours away from where I live right now. And I took about a year... I spent about a year with him, doing things, learning some tips and all that. And now I've got an agent, and I'm hoping to make it big right now in the voice acting world. I've already sent a couple auditions out to some big companies, but I'm not going to say who. I still need to hear something back for them. But if you want to hear more of what I'm able to do, please go to www.manyvoicesofjoel.com. You can see it in the description. As for the recordings, that was really a struggle for me, trying to get it to sound right and syncing. But it was fun, like I said. But the syncing was the hard part, syncing it to the visuals here. I used PreSonus Studio 1 2. I found out about that program from a local musician from my town. For those of you who use a Mac computer, it is very similar to Pro Tools, such as you can take different tracks or make tracks and place them in the right order, volume adjustment and all that stuff. And it is really, really helpful. And you'll be seeing more of me using that in a later series, which is Stories of the LNER. I used that for the movie A Christmas to Remember, and that helped immensely. I really liked it. But I think the other problem I had, and I still do, is I'm trying to figure out how I can make the audio not sound so fuzzy when I'm putting it into Windows Movie Maker. Because if you listen, especially when the characters are being louder, you can hear more of a fuzz or something. And I don't know what it is. It may be the format of the file. I've tried it before, but it didn't seem to work. So if anybody can hear what's good, please tell me, because I want to know. And just so I know, I'm using a condenser mic, and I'm recording directly into Windows Movie Maker. And it's coming out clear. I don't understand that. So I may have to try something else. Oh, and here's another instance. You hear the little fuzz right there near the end. And by the way, that's just my version of the Optimus Prime yell from the Transformer movies. That's just one of the many voices I can do, and I can do a lot of voices, and I'm keeping a catalog of it. Just be sure to keep an eye on my website and here for a new series which will showcase my many voices, hence my website name, manyvoicesofjoel.com. And speaking of voices, how I started on that was when I was like 2 years old. I've been doing them since I was that age. And I learned to do these voices by listening to other people, audio tapes, and watching old shows like like the old Sesame Street stuff, and old Looney Tunes cartoons, Shining Time Station, Popeye, Rocky and Bullwinkle, and I copied those voices, and I would entertain people with those voices and with stories as well, and I would read those stories to my siblings. And that, years later, I started doing my own show in my town to help build a resume, but also to show my voicing and also be entertaining with some classic literature or personal favorite popular ones, popular stories. And just so you know where you can see that, you can find out more about that on my voiceover website as well if you go to the projects page. It's one of my first things. It's called Storytime with Joel Hunter, and there's a link to the website for it. And actually at that scene right there, I did have to cut some bits of voicing, and everybody does that. I had to cut some because it was like unnecessary, and we'll hear some more of it later for Pahadu. Oh, there was some more for Pahadu later on. Now I'll say when. But we're about ready to come to another part in this, and this is my personal opinion of Bionicle in this movie. I still think it was done perfectly. Right here. The Toa aren't supposed to kill. That's against their code. They don't kill people. They don't kill things. So that's the only little pitfall right there for me. But it's understandable in one way, but it's still a bit of a fall right there, because we'll see him do it again with this creature right here, the Korok Va. And as for this scene right here, Pahadu's reaction there was pretty much my reaction when I first saw this. It's pretty funny. This movie in particular was really great. I love it because it feels like it's part of the original storyline from the Scholastic books. I can't remember who wrote the Borok ones. I think it may have been C.A. Hapka or Greg Verster. I can't remember. But this story really feels like that. And there goes Kapaka killing another creature. Again, that's against the code. That's pretty much the only flaw I see with this movie. But it's still good. And the thing that really stood out to me with this is that this is one person animating all this. And this is by far probably the best fan film I've ever seen. Now we're coming to a part here where I had to cut a line right here where Pahadu said, because it just felt like it was unnecessary, where he mutters to himself, "Alrighty," and then he gets the big giant stone hand to catch the flying Borok. And he says that line a couple other times later on. I think right near where he's trying to coax the Korok out of his trap with the force field, which is this one here. And there was one thing I wanted to do right here was trying to make Pahadu squeal a bit and make his voice try to be high pitched, because he got hit in a very tender spot. But my vocal range doesn't allow me to do that anymore, and I'm really bummed, because I mean there were some voices I could do with when my voice didn't deepen, such as Marge Simpson, and I could do Elmo, but now I can't anymore, and that stinks for me. And yeah, like I said, expect to see a video series soon of me showing the many impressions I can do and voices that I've made up. Right here, I had Pahadu say "alrighty" again. And I have him, as I said before, he says it one more time after this. And there was even one point right about here where I got the line wrong. And I had to redo it. And if you notice, Pahadu, I actually did say one line wrong, and it stays in there instead of saying these force fields work both directions, as in one can't get in or nothing can get in or get out. But it's in the subtitles it says these. So that's one minor flaw right there on my part. So, but I think it fits. So, and I didn't want to do it again because that was the last time I had to do it. As I stated earlier, Pahadu was the hardest for me to do, to get right. And I like these little comedic timings. It's very, I love it.
I guess we won't be needing that one.
And again, we're going to see another killing right here. But I find this one kind of cool, but it makes me shudder a bit. Oh man. And it bleeds. And now we're actually about ready to come up to another part right here.
Since I'm all done, maybe I can
We'll find out in a little bit.
What was that? A newfound sense of camaraderie? Or do you just pity me?
I love that line right there. I love that. Because it's very much like Pahadu.
Hey, wait.
And this is, I like this scene right here.
Whoa,
Right there.
whoa, wait a minute. Did you
And-
just really wink at me?
For this scene, I actually wanted to add an echo to this part to show it was Kopaka thinking. But for some reason, Audacity wouldn't let me do it. It was really odd. I don't know why. But also, you'll notice I added a couple of other lines in there, such as Pahadu saying, "Oh, I promise," and well, wait a minute, and all that. And right now, we have come to the end of this movie. Well, it's not technically the end yet. We've still got, like, what, 3 minutes left? Nearly 4 minutes. And now we've come to the end titles. This also took me a long time. And I'm really, mostly, like I said, it's because of me doing all the cut and paste to form the words here. That took me a long time. That took me over a week to get right. And in all actuality, the work time that took me to do this movie was 2 weeks. I put about 2 weeks worth into this, but it took me a month to make it. Another thing that I was really working on this part was the music. I wanted to make sure the music was right. And as you heard a little bit ago, that was from The Mask of Light, and I thought that fit really well. But this one right here is my favorite. It's the end music from the online Matanui game. It sounds majestic. It sounds epic. Just like the one from the title. And I've always envisioned this music to be part of a Bionicle film. And speaking of which, I actually have like an idea for one, but I still need to write it out a bit. I hope to maybe submit it to somebody. I don't know. I just love this music. And speaking of music, here are the people who made the music. And then there's me crediting myself for making these awesome and painstakingly long titles and end credits. And then there's the usual disclaimer. again, I'd like to thank everybody for watching this, and I'd like to thank especially Verano for letting me do this. And if you're watching this, Verano, you did a great job making this. It was brilliant. Even though you may say it may have been crap, it was brilliant. I love it. Don't belittle yourself. Take pride in your work. So that's what I do with mine. Take pride. And then here we come to the little post-credit scene. It's what inspired me to do this way, to split it up like this, was the Marvel films, because I felt like this scene should be that way. And for those of you who don't understand what this scene is about, think of it this way. As Verano said in the comments of the original video, think of it as you are working on something, and then a few days later you wake up in the middle of the night and you're thinking, wait a minute, did I do that right? Did I? And then you go check and double check, and it turns out to be okay, because you don't want to be made a fool of. That's kind of what's going on with Copique right here. And speaking of voices, this one was also an easy one for me to do, because he only has one word. Good. So yeah. Well, that's it. Thank you all for watching. And this is GeebMachine, signing off on my first commentary. Later.